Hi everyone here and around the Earth, where this coming Saturday, September 23rd at 2:50 a.m. Eastern in the Northern Hemisphere, our sun will cross the celestial equator, and for a brief time, dark night and bright day will be the same length. And by now, in fall 2023, after some credible military whistleblowers have described firsthand knowledge of non-human UFO UAPs and even biological entities that are described as not human, there is new pushback from NASA and the Pentagon's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, known as AARO. On September 14th, NASA released what it calls an independent study for the past year about UFOs and UAPs. Its conclusion, quote, "No evidence UFOs have alien origins," close quote. Even though before a July 26, 2023 House Subcommittee hearing about UFOs and UAPs, former U.S. intelligence analyst David Grusch told representatives in congressional testimony that for decades, the United States government has run a classified program that retrieves alien spacecraft and even biological bodies that are not human. At that hearing, with their hands raised in oath to tell the truth, were left to right retired Navy pilot Ryan Graves, retired Air Force Major David Grusch, and retired Navy pilot David Fraver. Pilot Fraver said, quote, "The UAP technology that we faced was far superior than anything that we had. We have nothing close to it. It was incredible technology," close quote. And non-human biologics were found among wrecked alien craft, according to U.S. Air Force Major retired David Grusch, implying that the U.S. government has hard physical evidence of extraterrestrial biological entities, dead and or alive. In the opening two paragraphs of the Reddit comments after the House Subcommittee hearing that were sent to me by an aerospace source, it reads, quote, "First, I know that Grusch has only limited ability to talk about this subject. Second, this alien retrieval program is real and is the most highly classified program in the U.S. The program is called ZODIAC, and this may or may not come out in the public hearing soon," close quote. After my last week's September 13th Earthfiles YouTube broadcast, I received an encrypted message, quote, "Is Raytheon or Boeing the current gatekeeper of the program known as Zodiac, perhaps where Hughes aircraft used to be? My station chief within JSOC that I worked with from time to time was against any mention of Zodiac whatsoever," close quote. What is a zodiac? As the Earth travels around the sun from January to May to September back to January, the sun appears to pass in front of 12 star constellations: Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. After my September 13th, 2023 Earthfiles broadcast, I received an encrypted message that said, quote, "Zodiac is run by a partnership between JSOC, the Joint Special Operations Command, with Raytheon, and has been since its inception. Zodiac is the active participation of multiple countries and intelligence agencies to identify, catalog, analyze, and recover downed craft that are known not to originate from Earth. At present, we consider most of the alien beings with the craft to be advanced biological AI, artificial intelligence manufactured beings. This Zodiac program requires all individuals involved to hold an SES GS-15 clearance. All caps SES stands for Senior Executive Services, which means they report to someone or a group that reports to POTUS, President of the United States, or his science advisory group that in turn reports to POTUS. Zodiac is the highest classified program in our government. Make no mistake about that. Use of deadly force is authorized against anyone in Zodiac that steps outside of the rules. People have literally gone missing that spoke openly about Zodiac. I bring this subject to the forefront of discussion since you, Linda, repeatedly bring up the decades of internecine warfare since World War II, in which the Pentagon has essentially classified reality, as you put it. But now, Linda, there are interagency meetings about the fight to bring all of this to the public once and for all, and a major player is JSOC. JSOC is an acronym for the Joint Special Operations Command. It is based in Pope Air Force Base and Fort Liberty, formerly known as Fort Bragg. Both bases are in North Carolina, northwest of Fayetteville. Units now in 2023 under JSOC's command include Delta Force, first organized on November 19, 1977. JSOC's intelligence support activity includes SEAL Team 6 is now known as U.S. Naval Special Warfare Development Group, and Special Operations Forces that include U.S. Army Green Berets, Army Night Stalkers, Army Rangers, Navy SEALs, Navy Special Warfare Combatant Craft Crew, Marine Corps Special Forces Training, Marine Force Recon Missions, and Air Force Special Tactics. My source says, quote, JSOC and Zodiac are the primary forces interacting with non-human intelligences that interact with Earth. And as there are 12 constellations around our sun Zodiac that contain solar systems and other life forms, the War Office and then the Pentagon long ago in the Truman to Eisenhower administrations echoed the Zodiac's 12 constellations when it named the highly secret Majestic 12, or MJ-12, advisors to the president to guide policies in a restricted Psalm 101 Special Operations Manual entitled, quote, Extraterrestrial Entities and Technology, Recovery and Disposal, Top Secret MAJIC Eyes Only, printed in April 1954 with the warning, this is a top secret MAJIC Eyes Only document containing compartmentalized information essential to the national security of the United States. Eyes only access to the material herein is strictly limited to personnel possessing MAJIC 12 clearance level. Examination or use by unauthorized personnel is strictly forbidden and is punishable by federal law. Close quote. Figure 4 on page 20 of the Psalm 101 Majestic 12 Group Special Operations Manual is labeled, quote, Extraterrestrial craft. Illustrations in this diagram are gathered from documented sightings in Air Force and Central Intelligence and from examination of wreckage collected from various sources in the years 1947 to 1953. The Psalm 101 manual also includes description of 2 different types of extraterrestrial biological entities. That means the Majestic 12 group, and later on in collaboration with JSOC, MJ-12 policy decisions have been strict about not letting Earth humans know there are other intelligent life forms in our Milky Way galaxy and beyond that are interacting with Earth and humanity. As far back as the 1940s, there was a Pentagon rumor that an extraterrestrial survivor of a downed UFO back in the 1940s telepathically told our military that the closest 12 star systems within a boundary of 40 light years from Earth did possess high-level intelligent life, and that those different species from multiple solar systems had been involved with genetic engineering of the human race beginning 278 million years ago on Earth. Last week's Earthfiles was about the strange implant in the gum of a recruit photographed first at Lackland Air Force Base and then studied at Edwards Air Force Base. And he wants to remain anonymous, but he wanted me to know that a commander surgeon at Edwards told him the implant was extraterrestrial technology, used those words, and it was not human. This isn't the first time that I have heard about advanced technology transmitters embedded in teeth or gums, or both. At my news website, earthfiles.com, under today's date, September 20th, 2023, I have placed the extraordinary case of United States Navy Chief Yeoman Thomas Coleman Shepard. On Thanksgiving evening of November 1976, while stationed at White Beach Naval Base at the southern tip of Okinawa, Japan, Yeoman Shepard and a military colleague saw a classified file with photographs about Roswell, New Mexico UFOs and ETs, and it included bodies. Soon afterward, he was ordered to go to a dentist, where he suspected a monitoring device was put in his teeth to keep track of what he said about the Roswell UFO and ET photos and documents that he saw in this vault safe. Later on, he also saw a large UFO come right out of the ocean water near one of their naval ships in the Caribbean, and he was ordered to never talk about it. Now, to follow up on the link between firsthand military experiences with UFOs and ETs that end up with a dentist who extracts or inserts what is assumed to be an implant monitoring device, I'm now going to share with you a few firsthand experiences by Earthfiles viewers with military backgrounds who have messaged me just this past week. AA, September 16th, 2023, quote, "Implants are real. I worked in the aerospace industry, and there are levels where implants become mandatory. I didn't go into that spectrum and didn't want anything to do with it. I know a person who is close to me who has implants. They are hell, I promise. Your mind is compromised. Thoughts with a click, and they can put you to sleep and do whatever they need to do next to you," close quote. Quote, "They x-ray everyone's teeth. Easy to detect implants, if any. I know implants exist after reading Dr. Roger Lear's book with photos. They tested some of the implants he removed from certain people that had a bizarre coating that the body would not attack or reject. He was trying to find out what that substance was so the body would not reject organ transplants. And then he mysteriously shows up dead. I think he was murdered," close quote. DD, September 15th, 2023. So the Implant Removal Surgery Center would be run by the U.S. Navy out of the Navy Hospital in San Diego. Every year, at least 50 Marine Corps recruits have those implants removed during boot camp. Everyone in the military knows and has known for decades that this stuff happens all the time. We are also not the first humans on this planet. These days, people will discuss this stuff freely. However, there was a time not long ago when anyone who discussed it was disappeared. Many military personnel have had their wisdom teeth removed, and some grew back, and others have had something else removed that grew in that was not human teeth, close quote. Quote, the Navy always keeps the teeth that are thought to not be human origin teeth, but a non-human implant which resembles teeth. They're just longer, lighter, and razor sharp with serrated edges. I personally had 6 of these so-called wisdom teeth removed in my military career. They also removed an implant device from my forearm. It was not there, and then one day it just was there. They did not let me see anything that was removed from my body, and they kept all 6 of my wisdom teeth, close quote. Quote, Linda, I too was made to have an oral surgery when entering the Army back in 1992. They made me remove all 4 wisdom teeth that weren't even grown in. In the middle of training, they had to cut into my jaw to remove the wisdom teeth. I was given 1 day off, 5 weeks into training. I was told I could not refuse the surgery. When I asked why, they said they needed to remove an anomalous growth in my jaw. I didn't think much of it until your Earthfiles broadcast, and now my mind races at the thought of what they took and why. I saw my first UFO craft when I was 5 years old, close quote. Quote, been in the military, Army, and married to a captain. Was stationed at the Pentagon in D.C., Alexandria. Bad experiences. And I've had a couple of dreams that I can remember. One in which I'm with a tall white in a UFO ship with my mother, who died in 2012. The tall white had blonde hair and large, beautiful blue eyes, long robe and golden sash, golden writing in rows from below her ears to down her neck. It looked like a cross between Egyptian and Arabic. I could not read it, but I got the feeling of royalty and great love, close quote. And finally, tonight, I want to update you on both the fear and courage of last week's retired U.S. Air Force Staff Sergeant at Edwards Air Force Base. He reached out to me about the strange implant in his gum that was first imaged when he was a new recruit in basic training at Lackland Air Force Base, Texas. But he did not know that until later, after he was stationed at Edwards Air Force Base and was ordered to have surgery to remove a mystery object from his gum. An Air Force dental surgeon at Edwards was assigned to remove the gum implant even after the young staff sergeant protested that he did not want surgery. Finally, the dental surgeon turned on a computer to show a high-resolution image of what he was assigned to surgically remove. The retired sergeant was supposed to send me his own sketch of what he saw on that computer screen that astonished him with its clarity. He told me the implant looked like a white Tylenol caplet with 3 lines of nerves in parallel, only 1/1,000,000th of an inch thick each, quote, wrapped around the oblong white object, close quote. He was nervous about making the drawing for last week's show, and the sketch he promised never reached me before last week's Earthfiles broadcast. So I worked with my video editor, Brad, to use a computer photograph of a Tylenol white caplet that Brad added 3 thin parallel lines along the middle to represent the nerve tissue 1/1,000,000th of an inch wide each for an Earthfiles.com illustration based on the sergeant's description. And then, the next morning on September 14th, 2023, after my Earthfiles show, the source finally emailed this ink sketch on lined yellow paper which shows what he says he saw with his own eyes at the Edwards Air Force Base computer. And now we can see the 3 parallel lines are not wrapped the long way, but are 3 times around the oblong object, with nerve endings extending from both ends of what was a white object. The dental surgeon speculated that it was advanced technology to measure multiple processes at a pulsing blood vessel that they saw where the implant was discovered in his gum. And I'm now very curious that after, in just these past week and 2 weeks, the number that I have gotten, and have only shared a few, from people who are aware of these implants in terms of getting them in, out, or something having to do with military service and dental work. Are there any more of you tonight who have had firsthand personal experiences? And if so, please send me emails to earthfiles@earthfiles.com. And if you have ever seen an implant because somebody showed you on a computer, I would like to see what you would have experienced. And I'm also curious that how many of you, when you heard yesterday about the NASA headline that after a year that they were concluding that there was no evidence of any extraterrestrial relationship to UFOs, UAPs, and the many different beings that people for centuries have reported on this earth. What was your reaction? I certainly hope that we are going to continue to have firsthand information from pilots, analysts, people in military willing to come forward and talk in what is increasingly, seems to me, a pushback atmosphere yet again against the whole obvious, I think, fact and truth that there are other intelligences and they have been interacting with this planet for millennia. And when you talk to people who have served in JSOC, who have served in the Pentagon, who have served in science, medical, environmental projects that are related to the non-humans, which I have, it becomes almost ridiculous that we are still at the end of 2023 and that this strange cat and mouse game is going on between headlines, groups, pushbacks, release of information, and nothing is being straight out honest, except I think an example of these people who have served in military and they have had experiences with having implants or something removed in their own teeth without explanation by a government who still is not just coming forward with everything that it knows and has known for decades. And it makes me feel sad that we are on a planet that has so many conflicts and that truth is the rarest, the hardest path that any of us can try to take. And yet, without truth, what do we have? What do we have without truth? So on that note, dear Ian in England, I'd like to transition to see what is at the top of your list in questions or comments, and standing by to talk. Are you there?
Thank you, Linda.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Linda. I too, yes, I'm collating comments and information given to us by our Earthfiles viewers about their own experiences with implants. So I do urge you all to contact us with your own experiences. We are interested in them. We've got one here from Werder Bremen in the chat. He says, "That's so strange. I had all of my wisdom teeth removed after seeing a UFO in 1996. They removed the top wisdom teeth for no reason."
And this was in a military context, Ian?
Well, that's what I'd like to ascertain. That's my question: is did the military remove the top wisdom teeth for no reason? Is it the military connection? Please let us know. That
hopefully we can get an answer while we are still on the air tonight.
Okay, so Werder Bremen, please let us know if that was in a military context as well. Going back to the comments tonight, Gary Marbella says, who is really calling the shots, blocking disclosure? And Hello Ali says, what does Linda think about the House Oversight Committee meeting privately with NASA tomorrow?
Well, I think it's what's called political politeness, and that if NASA continues the pushback that it is doing, everything is fine, there's nothing to see here, when that is decades. NASA, the astronauts, so many of the astronauts know the truth. And we have talked about that here on previous shows. So right now, it seems like there is Representative Burchett and Luna, who have both said on national TV, we don't want cover-ups. We want the truth. We want to know it all. And yet, when NASA comes in with a report, as they have after a year, when I know how much I have been personally exposed to, that really is in a category of evidentiary material, and that the number of scientists, medical people, archaeological people, engineers, aerospace scientists, and others that are working in the context of other intelligences interacting with this planet. And that we're so schizophrenic, it is so weird, that depending upon who you are talking with and depending upon whether they are talking straight or not, that how can we continue to have people like the pilots who are saying that they watch something drop out of the sky up high into the water or come out of the water straight up and disappear, going at speeds that are not human measurements, that we would not be able to sustain life or do the technology of those kinds of speeds, and moving out of water into air, air into water, water and air, and then out into no atmosphere, and as if there's no challenge to that, when we as humans know that it's a huge challenge. And that we have heard from a variety of people who have worked in the government, who've worked in the Pentagon, like Lou Elizondo. He was working on a top secret project in which they were studying all of these different videos and military reports about technology that was impossible for humans to do, build, or understand. So that's up against all the pilot reports, and then NASA coming in and saying that after a year, it has absolutely no evidence of anything that could be in an extraterrestrial category. Well, maybe what they will do is say eventually, well, we said extraterrestrial. That's in a solar system next door. And maybe what they're going to introduce is other dimensions, or who knows. Bottom line, we still, at the end of 2023, Representative Burchett, Luna, and the others who are, I think, honestly trying to see if congressional committees can have honest, straightforward dialogue on and off the record with people who have a tremendous amount of firsthand experience, and to be able to report it. To be able to report it without editing, without politicizing, just talking with real people in real professions who have had real interactions. And if my understanding is true, because I've had at least a dozen reports for the last 20 years from people describing how they were working in a, let's say, a large aerospace company, and that one of the intelligence that would be guiding the project, they knew was not human. And it was known to the people, small group, working on a project, that they were working with something that would be like a Nordic or a tall white. And if you go back to World War II, there are the reports in books like William Mills Tompkins about blonde, blue-eyed people working in the Pentagon who were actually Nordic ETs. We need a whole lot more evidentiary material about sentences like that, for sure. But right now, didn't all of you think that we would have headlines finally about other life detected on TRAPPIST and all of these planets, that we keep hearing that the Webb, like the most recent one was about the Webb finding the ingredient that only is associated with life, and other sources to me over the last 4 to 5 years talking about how we are working with tall whites, Nordics, others, that we already know about high civilizations. If you went out 40 light years and you drew a circle around our solar system, 40 light years, how there are a dozen or more what they call high civilizations, meaning intelligent beings. And that if they're blonde, blue-eyed, that might explain the blonde, blue-eyed beings that have been on this planet in history described, having to do with other civilizations. So I find it fascinating. I do not understand why this is so difficult for the government to lead the way to telling the truth. And that Representative Burchett and Luna and others, they are trying. And why? What is the reason for the distorted block that always comes from NASA? Why? Anybody in our audience tonight who has worked in NASA, worked on a Mars program, who knows about the strange aspect of NASA always trying to keep UFOs, ETs, all of it at a huge arm's length distance, as if none of it could be true. Somehow it damages NASA. It makes no sense. If we could finally get this planet on one ground of truth with other intelligences. Remember, it was a statistic that came up recently in one of the, it was a science interview. And it was that scientists have tried mathematically, based on what they see between our Earth, what our planet is, other planets in the Milky Way galaxy, and then what they can see out in other galaxies. What would be the mathematical calculation of how many suns, if there are something like 3 trillion galaxies and each has 1 trillion stars, and you start working that math, and based on what we know of Earth in our Milky Way galaxy, the question was, how many, theoretically, how many planets might have life based on everything that we have been able to see with the Webb telescope and Hubble and so forth? And the answer was 1 trillion. The 1 trillion planets in the vast, vast universe out to the edges of infinity. 1 trillion. So why? Why is looking for extraterrestrial, non-human life, not a high agenda, and to tell the truth with what we find. And if there are beings who are older, who have civilizations that are much longer and older than Homo sapiens sapien on Earth, why? Why should we not know that? And if there are insects, the tronoloids that were presented to Ronald Reagan as a threat, because you would imagine, as we know on Earth, there seems to always be a yin and yang, a black and white, light and dark. So if there's something out there hostile, then let's know about it. Let's know everything we can. Let's know about which non-humans know how to deal with the tronoloid insects and protect us. Let's grow up as a planet. Let's grow up as human civilizations. Let's start dealing with this for real. So that's my reaction when I saw the NASA headline. And I'm assuming it was a lot of people's. I'm tired of NASA saying there's nothing there when there are scientists and doctors who say they have been in the same room with non-humans. Okay, Ian.
Okay, yeah, we've heard back from Werder Bremen. He says this was while he was serving in the Bundeswehr in Germany when he got his wisdom teeth removed. They said it was an absolute must. The Bundeswehr is the armed services of the Federal Republic of Germany. He also says, I have ulcers time to time, and after an MRI, they discovered an implant which they can't remove. Well, I think, Werder Bremen, please contact us at earthfiles@earthfiles.com. We'd like to follow up with you.
And ask him, Ian, why would they say it could not be removed?
Exactly. Whereabouts was this implant exactly? So please give us more details. Or contact us directly so we can follow up with you. Give us your contact details and we'll follow up with you in confidence.
Yes, and I want to add one footnote to everything I presented so far, and that was I have talked with an abductee, not in a scientific context, in a life context of being an abductee and having an implant and having something in which it's a woman and she thinks that she has something that's been put in her ear and she will get thoughts. She said, Linda, it is to some extent as if they can manipulate, perhaps through the technology, like you talk about telepathy. And people say it is like having voices that come in your head, and they are not like your own thought stream. They are distinctly different. And the idea that was implied in the Thomas Coleman Shepard case that I have now at Earthfiles, and I urge everybody to go to Earthfiles and read this fascinating report with Coleman Shepard, that when they were taken to a dentist after they had sort of broken into a safe, found the Roswell file, it had photographs of non-humans and humans and everybody about Roswell and a crash and these beings. And then 2 weeks later, they get this order that they are to go to a dentist. He told me privately that he was told, not officially, that he was told by one of their chiefs that they knew that there were non-human technologies that could be inserted in teeth and skulls in which there could be downloads of information. They assumed some kind of control, and that was one of the military reasons for insisting removal of implants that they knew were not human-made for human reasons. So just laying it out that way, that there's so many cases like this, why shouldn't that information be presented to everybody on the planet so we had better understanding of what is going on? Go ahead, Ian.
Yeah, okay. I just want to do the super chats before we move on for tonight. So here we go. Moonbird, Digital Gypsy, Terry D, Caroline Boyce, Whisper of Love, Jessica Rodriguez, and Patty London. Christina Ledesma Jimenez. She also says it's her birthday, so we want to wish her a happy birthday today. And she loves Wednesdays with Earthfiles.
Happy birthday, and happy autumnal equinox. I always loved the idea that just for this moment in infinity, that the light and the sun on the earth and the dark on they come together and they're exactly a half. And I'm always, always praying for the sun to always prevail. But there's something about right now, Saturday, when you know it's half and half, and that you, me, everybody on this planet, the energy and the potential relationship between humanity and the thought that dwells in the light is so, so great that that's what we should be fighting for, against wars, against gun bullets, against all of that. We should really be trying to help that equinox light prevail. Go ahead, Ian.
Yes, I've got a question from Jessica Rodriguez. She says, Linda, when disclosure happens, do you think the Vatican will open up the secret archives? They are also a big part of the big cover-up along with our government.
I think everything has to be opened up. And the avatars of history are one of the greatest mysteries. And when some people say, well, you can't tell the truth because that will affect people who think that this religion and this religion and this religion are the only truth. And that if the avatars of history were extraterrestrials that were advanced and they came to the earth to teach baby humanity, and baby humanity turned them into whatever, then that's where there seems to be a collision of a lot of people who say, well, you can never tell the truth because it would affect religions. Well, it's been only in the last 20 years that the Pope in Rome and that world that they themselves have said, which I think is absolutely correct. This was the large Catholic statement. Finding other life in this universe expands the strength, the power, the glory of God. If God is light and it is thought that dwells in the light, whatever it is to you, it is a power, it is an energy, it is a field that is larger than everything that we know, because it has to also be able to relate to how many, they're now saying that there could be possibly 3 trillion universes in infinity, as if infinity had any boundary to begin with. It doesn't. But the number and the scope is so huge. Well, as the evolution of philosophies and the relationship of humans to forces and to the invisible but somehow palpable presence of power, of something that you feel that you are connected. I feel it from inside my chest, and I think it's my soul has a relationship with the infinite, as yours and everyone else's with souls does. And that is perhaps where eventually all will begin to evolve the more we learn and know and hopefully get to meet friendly, neutral, extraterrestrial, other intelligences, and that we will begin to have a bigger relationship with the whole conscious universe. I mean, that's to me what feels inevitable and healthy. Not looking back in history and saying we can't open up the truth about the relationship of the conscious universe to souls and conscious minds that are an infinite number of life forms, and humanity is one. That we can't open up that truth because there will be some problem about the relationship of historic religions to learning that our whole universe is conscious, that we have souls that interact in frequencies with that universe. It's sort of the same concept. It doesn't matter whether you call it divine field, the thought that dwells in the light, God. It's all the same concept. We are evolving in and out of the dance of light. And the darkness seems to be where the light keeps moving and shining. So I can't imagine anything more exciting than finally breaking through to the truth that there are other high civilizations. There might be 40 or 60 within 40 light years around this solar system, or 100. It's exciting, and we need to learn. So the idea that all of these other facets, such as implants in jawbones and teeth by extraterrestrials or the military, to monitor, to communicate, it just seems like something that maybe we will grow out of, hopefully. Okay, Ian.
Yeah, I wanted to refer you to a question I had this evening. One of the abductees that we've been working with since the beginning of the year contacted me and said they had a UFO event last night, and she said, do ETs ever put implants in the nose? She said her septum was very sore, but she'd also got headaches. Her question was, will the headaches pass, or is it a continuous thing? What should she expect?
The first implant that I ever got to sit down and talk face to face, it must be back all the way to probably 1983-ish. I think it was at a conference. I had done A Strange Harvest in fall of 1979, and it had broadcast May 25th, 1980. So this was about 3 years later. And it was a couple, and I remember they were from Missouri, and both of them asked me if I would sit down with them, that they wanted to tell me. And his was a vivid, current. This was not something he was talking about that was old. It had current. They had had interactions with beams of light. They had had interactions with orbs of light in their house. They had had missing time. What they had not had was straightforward face-to-face with non-humans. But because they had had all these other experiences, they had gone to this conference, they had gone to other places, they had started reading, and they asked me if I would sit down with them as they were defining that they seemed to fit the abduction. And as we were talking about all of the different facets that included missing time, the husband said, I want to show you something. And he had a handkerchief, and he had a little tiny black thing in the handkerchief. And he said, I sneezed this out of my nose. And it was only like 2 or 3 weeks before or something. And he said, and I don't know if I want to do anything with it. He said, I'm trying to figure out. Right now, he said, I just want you to know this came out of my nose. And I'm not ready to have it leave me. And I don't know if a scientist would want to study it. But he said, I think it has to do with the missing time and the beams of light and the orbs in the house. And Linda, I think something in extraterrestrial category put something in me and I sneezed it out, and I don't know what I should do. Do I keep it? Do I keep it in a pocket? Should I put it at the bed? Should I forget it? And very honestly, I had no insight. I had no way to advise. I said, science, I'm always trying to support the investigation of anything that would fall into the category of implants or extraterrestrial technology. I think we should study it, but then we all know that our government has been studying it since World War II. But the implant is a very interesting question because it's not so, we'll call it in-your-face material world as it was with that couple. And I did understand the contradiction or the push-pull that you would feel inside yourself. Do I want this to be out in the world? Do I want somebody to be doing an investigation? Are they going to tell that I have had some kind of an interaction with other life forms and they put something in me and I sneezed it out? I understand how people, given the attitude of the world about other life in the universe, that there's a halt. And I never did know. I got to talk with them, that made them happy. They went away. He went with the little black thing in the handkerchief. They had my address and phone number, but often I think people feel that it will be a negative in their life, and we lose the opportunity to do what could be fascinating scientific investigations. Another reason to get past headlines like NASA's pushback, that there's no evidence of extraterrestrial in all of the pilot reports, all of the abductee reports, it goes on, that it doesn't make any sense. If we could just get into a climate where we could be introduced, even if it was, okay, we're going to introduce you to friendly neutrals, and they will only be here once in a while. They're not going to take over operating the world for us. We humans still must be responsible for what we do. This is what they want to see. Other non-humans study our planet to see what we're going to do. There's too much war. There's too much violence. Well, would you, let me throw this out as a question. If tomorrow there was an international, global, like they do sometimes, like for the Queen's funeral, and as many places as possible could be connected together through satellite images and we could watch on TV and cell phones. And they said, we know that NASA says there's no evidence. Well, today we would like to introduce you to, in the context of beings that come from Procyon A and B, or TRAPPIST 40 light years away, or that they've got a list of habitable planets and solar systems. And we are going to invite X now to communicate with us. And we have an ambassador who knows how to do this language, or they have some new translation that can go to every place electronically, which is a download of zeros and ones from non-humans, because we have the problem of multiple languages, telepathy. All of these are different ways to communicate, and we need to get to a point where everybody has a communication on planet Earth with everyone through, and that's the question, how? Well, if the tall whites are as advanced as they have been described to me, they would have the ability to communicate, I think, in all languages, that it wouldn't be a problem. And then everybody says, but what would they communicate? If they are so advanced and they can go several light years in seconds or minutes because they already know how to use black holes and do Alcubierre drive and all of that. Why should they bother with us? Well, they are and have been for a very long time. And I have been told that the tall whites are especially interested in the evolution of Homo sapien on this planet because they were involved in the genetic manipulation millions of years ago. So if we're an experiment, fine. We can be introduced to other intelligences that have the ability to put monitoring technologies in implants, in abductees, animals, all over. We should be able to reach a point where we could have communication with them and do it in the context of we have evolved to a place, to a point where we can have some kind of global communication. And once that would start and everything was okay, I'm assuming that all the official fears that if they tell any truth about beings and what beings are doing on Earth, and they have to include animal mutilations, which gets very difficult for them, then if that keeps being used as a block, then we're never ever going to be told truth. And that seems to me to be the worst possible end game. Let's just leave Earth in their fantasy land. No. It may come to the fact that what's going on the Earth now with climate change could force that we have to go on to another planet like Mars. We have to start moving out. We don't really fully understand what the implications are of everything in front of us. And the more that we can honestly be introduced to other intelligences, advanced abilities to move around in the universe, the more I think it would help humans to survive what could be an increasingly difficult decade. So, on that note, as we reach the bottom of the half hour, I am, I guess, wanting to say to everyone, if we could continue to have honest dialogues about honest information from those of you who work military, science, medical, send me information. I can always communicate without having to identify, as I have done with the gum story from Edwards and Blackland. And so maybe piece by piece at Earthfiles that we can continue to open this up ourselves in a planet that is going through so many revolutionary levels that over the next 5, 6, 7 years, who knows what will have happened on Earth and how important it is now and will always be that humans learn how to support and love each other, not fight and kill each other. And I think that's what some of the Nordics and the tall whites are waiting to see humanity come to those terms on ourselves. I would like to see a handshake with them that are friendly and neutral and want to see us succeed, and that maybe we could evolve faster and better if we were working with entities who understood so much more than we do. Well, whichever way it goes, feel an agape hug. on this night, September 20th, a couple of days before even the sun comes to a moment where it will be all dark and all light exactly at a half. And then the light moves on and the planet continues to evolve. And I will see you next Wednesday.
Turn on closed captions for YouTube videos by clicking the white CC button on the lower right. The default language for Linda's videos is English. If you would like to see the captions in another language, click on the white settings button next to the CC button. Select Subtitles CC and then select Auto Translate. Select a language, and the captions will now appear in that language.
Sort of gone through, and they will hold their heads. I never had a cat do that before. And they'll pull against the comb, helping me get out snarls. And I think it's the best they've ever been.